Dang, y'all showed up fast today. Hi, everybody. I hope you like the new art. I know Deebs does. We should have Portal to the Grim Reaper. It's so silly. I love it. I have one new art piece that I found. I got like 4 new ones when I was looking the other day. And I've shown off, I think, 3 of them in this week. Yeah, because I started new ones on Monday. Hey, little Lionheart. Glad you got a new computer. That's really cool. And that the university helped pay for it. That's freaking rad. Hello, Crawdad. Hello, Nick. Hello, Jackal. Hello, Stick Shift. Hello, Deebs. I'm gonna complain about something real fast. I finally spent money buying one of those because I have a soda stream, so I bought a thing of cola syrup, being like, sweet, I can make my own. I finally bought it, and it's disgusting. It is not good syrup, and now I have to return it because it's gross. And I have to get another one. I have to shop for it because I don't know what the good ones are. And it was one of the good brands. It was like Manoli or something. It was supposed to be one of the really good ones. But no. It's actually a new MacBook. A lot of infield software only runs on Unix. Oh, makes sense. It's okay, I have my last vanilla Coke here, so it's all right. I'll survive. Had a soda stream for, but I'm super picky about soda. It has to be a name brand regular Coke, and it has to be cold AF. It is really good when you, like, we have a water filter on the fridge because we rent, and that's what the fridge is. So we fill up the bottle. I'll fill up the bottle with the filtered fridge water and then put it in the fridge to cool it off even more, and then make stuff out of it, and it's really extra good. Cold is great. Do they do mini taster bottles of syrup? I haven't seen that many of those. Little Lionhead Rabbit. I mostly find them, it's like all the ones I look for online were like huge. The one I got was like freaking, I mean, I can grab it, but it's like this big. It's bananas. Vanilla Coke. Let's try to draft Pepsi. Hey, Wraithbow. Can or fountain only bottle is no good. That they do taste different. Nick, I think you're with me on this, that if you've ever tried a freestyle Coke machine, you've probably learned that they're not worth drinking out of. They're disgusting. They were good when they first got introduced, but I think because they all share like the same hose or whatever, all the drinks just taste like a gross menagerie of all of the drinks that they sell. Still no raid alert? Oh my gosh. First it was the bits, then it was the raid. I don't know what to do. I'll have to troubleshoot some more. I finally figured out. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, hey Honey Money, and hey everybody who came in with Honey Money. How are you doing? Welcome to RPG Help Desk, where I'm currently complaining about soda, but we will be talking about NPCs very soon. I like the Powerade lime out of those. Okay, you're right, because Little Lionhead, the ones that don't have a lot of like flavor, like Powerade or like the kind of like seltzer watery kind of ones. Not seltzer water, the like, you know, the light flavors. those can be okay because of how light they are. But like all the Cokes, all the mellow yellows, all those, gross. They just gross. Ooh, freezer 55 minutes. Do they do the thing where they like ice up around the edges? Because that's really good. It's like almost makes a slushy. Honey Money, I found out I've been having an issue when we've been recording Adventurers and I, that my recording software was constantly changing levels. And I was having to like watch my levels while I was doing it, and it would just peak for no reason. And I'd like blow an audio take and I'd have to redo it. And I looked for weeks. I tried different software. I did all this different stuff to figure out what the problem was. And it turned out the problem was Zoom. And that Zoom had a in-program audio control thing. And that was set to auto adjust. So when I'd be quiet for a while, it would slowly raise my microphone or quickly raise my microphone, and then I'd blow out. And when I'd be talking, sometimes it would be like, that's too loud, and drop it significantly. Which I guess would be okay if, you know, you were in a call, but I was, you know, recording and I wanted constant levels, so it was terrible. Actually, the peaking was terrible regardless. So it took me weeks, and I tried with because I didn't know what program it was. And then I was complaining about it to everybody yesterday, and I was like, it doesn't do it when I'm doing anything else. And they were like, maybe it's Zoom. And I was like, I thought I checked, but I'll double check. And I had to do it in a Zoom call, not in the program stuff in Windows to control Zoom, because I tried to do that earlier. Hi, Blight. I'll be right there. So I was like, oh, man. Let me open the microphone thing in Zoom, and yeah, there it was, selected auto balance mic, and that fixed it. And I've never been so angry after solving a problem. Like, it was upsetting that that's what did it. It's like, come on. Oh, it was so upsetting. I mean, I'm glad it's fixed now, but back when I did drink soda, I'd mix all the flavors into a bizarre amalgamation anyway, so I doubt I'd notice at all they taste the same. That's fair. If you like that, then yeah, you probably love those freestyle machines. There's a filter they are supposed to change, but they don't. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Working food service, a lot of that stuff that's supposed to get changed. No. Easy idea for liking the soda linking the soda talk to NPCs gives them unique, somewhat quirky personality traits that may or may not affect the actual plot or combat. Nick, what a great segue into what we're talking about today. Because that's not far off from some of the stuff I had. Oh, also, hi, Consumer of Food is now a member of our friend group. And so everybody say hi. I don't know if they're here, but hi, Consumer of Food. If they lose ice up, they lose carbonation. Yeah, that's right. That's what I've learned. Adding, if I want a less sweet soda, just add like carbonated water to my soda, and then it gives it that lighter flavor without making it flat. And it's actually really good. I like it. Don't you love when technology tries to help? Yes, it's fantastic. I love it. So we can just say, I was wanting to get the 8th. I will have to check one thing after the stream, and then I will let you know. So yes, if you're good for next week, Blight, they'll let me check one thing, and if that works out, then I will let you know after the stream if it'll work out for me. I think it will, though, because I don't think the thing I have to do next week is happening. Next week. The thing I'm doing in June is not happening next week, I'm pretty sure. Didn't know you use Zoom to record Adventures Night. Yeah, we use Zoom, and then we all record our own audio as well. A little peek behind the curtain. And then upload our files so that we can, or Jack can edit them. That's that can of Coke, my last one. Zoom in on this. Zoom in on that a little more. There we go. I like bullet points. We're gonna make them bullet points, but we're gonna make them little like arrows. Those are cute. For the NPCs I'd make in my Exalted campaign. Ooh, Exalted back in the day. I'd also do things like subvert typical D&D racial tropes to stop metagaming and doing social roleplay. Actually, we're just gonna... This isn't where I was gonna start, but you mentioned that, so... That is... We're gonna start there. Because that's where you brought it up. You brought it up, and so we're gonna talk about that. Is this big enough? Do I need to make this font bigger? Let me know. I don't know how many people are looking at their phones or whatever. If you're having mic problems in the background, is that a peek behind the curtain? That's funny, Jackal. All right, so today we're going to talk about making memorable NPCs, and I want to talk both about memorable making PCs that your character NPCs that your player characters, your PCs will like, and that they will hate on purpose, because sometimes you make a NPC and people don't like it, and you're like, well, dang it, that's not the action I wanted. And then you're like, well, shoot, this isn't working. So we're going to talk about purposeful liking and hating. What's up, Narf? What kind of metagaming in social RP? What? I'm confused by the question, but I will try to answer it. Misplaced my external drive sometime in the last hour. Oh no, I hope you find it. Lionhead. I have to write something down real fast. There we go. Ooh, Tommy resubscribed with Prime and has been subscribed for 13 months. I don't know why that did that twice. Why did that do that twice? Weird. Hey, Tommy. Tommy says, does Subbing Justice channel make me a memorable NPC? No, you're a PC. You're a player character. You're not controlled by me. So you're a PC. Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. Sticking around for freaking 13 months. Hot diggity dog. That's really exciting. Also, I'm trying to keep my noise levels proper because I have my headphones back now, and they are so good at cupping my ears. These are fantastic headphones for hearing things that are supposed to be coming through here. But like, when I take them off, I realize how loud I have gotten, where I will just be shouting, but because I'm so muffled, it doesn't sound like I'm shouting. So I'm trying to make sure I don't freaking yell, but that is hard. Well, I love it here. Why wouldn't I stay? Well, thanks. Thanks, Tommy. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. hi Wraithbow. Wraithbow says, I mean, I got tired of the back and forth on where to go, so I just pointed out a short D&D thing I did. All the high charisma characters, I want to go one way. Just roll charisma check to convince other characters to move on. Get this subscription notification twice to make the lack of raid notification. Yeah, to make up for that. Nick says, use a real world example. I'd make a person who is vocally political liberal, but in practice is conservative, or vice versa. I'd make a sci-fi writer who wasn't actually interested in reading sci-fi or something. Oh, that's fun. Ooh, I really like that, Nick. That's a good idea. That's a good way to put it too. Having, oh my gosh, we haven't even got into subverting tropes yet, but so yeah, we're gonna say that would be fall under conflicting conflicting persona and ideals. We're gonna change this order so we can talk about that first. So like, I think that's a really good idea, Nick. Everybody take notes from Nick. So yeah, a thing to make, and you can make this both positive or negative, or try to keep it kind of neutral. Hi phone, thanks for beeping at me. But when a player can point out a contradiction, it does make it more, it does make them stick out, where they're like, wait a second, I figured out something about this person. That, you know, if you can make a player's brain click with something, that often, like, that little just moment of realization really can stick with a player and really help that idea of like, I figured something out, or I did a thing, I did an important thing, I did something that matters, I uncovered something. You know, it's a little solving of a mystery box or whatever. So having something where they're conflicting both makes them more human. I mean, human in the sense of like us human, not human in the sense of like fantasy RPG human as a as a type of humanoid, but human because that's how we are. We're, you know, you'll know someone that talks a big game but doesn't act on those ideals, or someone who, you know, kind of exactly what you said, Nick, like says they're very liberal, but like when you talk to them about like who they voted for, or, you know, what issues matter to them and why, you can learn that they are like, well, yes, I believe in this issue, but these other things are more important to me, so I actually don't do anything to further that issue other than say I support it. Or having very different ideals. So what a, you know, I don't want to say like liberal or conservative because that has more real world connotations, so I want to use like fake fantasy words. But like when someone is like, yeah, I'm very Elvorkian in my political beliefs, and then you kind of interrogate them, or just kind of, not like interrogation like tell me things, but, you know, just talking to them, a player talking to them and learning more about them that they think they are, but they are also basing it on an older ideal. So like a thing that I've noticed with, you know, growing up and, you know, having parents and friends of my parents is they'll be like, oh, I'm very liberal is something they will say, or I am very this. And then you ask them about that and their ideas of what like a progressive person is. They're like, I'm progressive. Sometimes I'm the most progressive person in the room about certain subjects. But then when you ask them and find stuff about them, they're basing what progressive is on an older ideal. So you could have someone who's like, he's like, I'm very progressive, but what that means is they are not outwardly racist. And that was okay. Okay, I'm going to say that was more okay 40 years ago to just be outwardly racist and be like, nah, it's just what I believe in. It's fine. And it's like, that, you know, it wasn't okay then either. But that now it's far less okay. But that someone is basing it on a different set of ideals. So that's another way you can use that to your advantage, is setting it based on something that was that definition maybe quite a while ago. Also, hi Discordia, good to see you. Sci-fi writer who doesn't actually like sci-fi sounds like a description of every sci-fi screenwriter in Hollywood right now. Woof. Yeah, some of that cognitive dissonance is real. Yeah, it is. Pro non-humanoid race versus not. I support halflings, right? They're not half, they're wholelings to me. Halfling moves into the neighborhood. Maybe it's time to move. Yeah, Crawdad. Really, really comical representation of that. Ooh, along the same vein, NPCs aren't static. You should be able to organically change them and their opinions. You are freaking on it today, Nick. This is why I love doing these. We're going to talk about that. Oh, well, I got to spell it right. But yes, NPCs are not static. Actually, I'm probably going to talk about that before subverting tropes. We're going to push that back up. But yeah, so conflicting ideals and personality, cognitive dissonance. Oh, well, I do have to spell that one right too. There we go. You know, that it's human. It's what we do, unfortunately. Long as we, oh, okay. Let me catch up, then we'll move on. Whether your party is lawful good, trying to convince others, be that, trying to be moralistic, yeah. Will you get into how you make your NPCs distinct with speech and voice without either getting too complicated or maintain too long term, or relying on tropes? Narf, hang on. Let me make a note, Narf, about that, because yes, I do want to talk about that. That is a thing that is, I'm going to make a huge note so I don't forget it. All caps. I actually wrote a thing about that a long time ago that I try to use to help me. And there are a few tips. Yes, I definitely want to get into that because I do think that voice is an important part of that. It does not have to be, but it really can help a lot. They'll save some sort of electrical power, I guess. Touche, stick shift. That ties in NPC's motivations. Always have 2 minimum for NPCs. Oh, Nick. Oh, you are speaking to my heart. Primary would be something like make money to pay rent and feed kids. Secondary would be like learn to play piano. In simple terms, 75% of NPCs actions should ideally move forward to the primary motivation in some way, and 25% to other motivations. So, oh my gosh, can you just, I don't want to say stop bringing up points that I'm going to bring up, because I want you to keep bringing them up because you bring up really good points about them. But like, oh man, it's hard to keep keep set on what I was trying to talk about, because you keep bringing up more points and I'm like, yeah, that too. Yeah, we're gonna get there. Motivations are huge. I'm about to head back into work, so I'm done with the main points. Sorry, I'm just excited. Well, it's okay, because I'm excited about all the stuff that you're saying too. I think you make excellent points. Going to go to listening mode now. Okay, cool. I mean, feel free to pop back in whenever you want or can. So cognitive dissonance, very important. NPCs aren't static. That's extremely important. The effect the players can have on them can also be against what they want. If you want to teach your players a lesson, and this might work for hating or loving the NPC, if your players are all about, you know, we're trying to do good, and then they keep coming back to the shop with like blood-stained weapons and armor to sell, and the shopkeep's like, so where'd these come from? And they're like, oh, we killed some kobolds. And they're like, and what did these kobolds do? They're like, oh, they attacked us. And be like they jumped you in the street. The players be like, oh no, we went in this cave and they were in there, and so we attacked, you know, and so we fought them. It's like, the NPC could be like, was that their home? Like, what instigated this? Did you have a right to be there? Like, you can have them be uncomfortable with what the players are doing, and have someone that it becomes like untrusting towards the players, or like nervous about them, or starts to do a grassroots movement against them. Maybe they aren't allowed in that town anymore because they can turn enough people against them because of the things that they're doing. Or maybe it's less extreme, where, you know, the NPC is just, you know, still buys stuff from them or whatever, but is like, you know, lets them know that it's like, what you're doing I think is wrong, or like, or the NPC is okay with it, and they're like, oh yeah, I've got a fence to get all these stuff that you know, murdered people for, and sell it without the authorities knowing. And the players can be like, but we didn't murder anyone. It's like, yeah, I know you didn't. Wink. And like really playing it up to that what the PCs are doing is totally wrong, and that this NPC is okay with it, but is okay with also pointing out that, you know, they're murdering, they're doing something, they're stealing, you know, whatever it is that they're doing, they're wrong to do it, but the NPC, you know, is informing them. And like have that change over time is one way to do it. Okay, guys, catch up. Jesse streams for 18 hours. Oh. Since Nick keeps adding stuff to his list. So good. I went to weigh in, but honestly, I'm not sure I've made any particularly memorable NPCs. Aww. Blood trauma. Love blunt trauma. Blunt trauma, actually, that's a good example, because I was going to bring up shtick. So having NPCs kind of change with what, you know, lesson the players need to learn can be helpful, or, you know, they may sway towards getting a better understanding of the antagonist, or getting involved in politics, or very much another thing Actually, this is its own point. Brought up motivations. So when I make NPCs, kind of what Nick was saying, I have, because I generally run lexicon plug my system. But only chat. I can't enforce the mode only chat in this. Too much stuff. But yeah, so motivation. So kind of saying make money for family, feed family and kids, and then learn to play piano. Primary and secondary motivation. And I think that helps a ton. That helps with the role-playing aspect, like the back and forth. If you know what their motivations are, it's more easy to decipher and play around with how they're going to react to something that you weren't expecting the players to do. Because the players go, oh, well, we need a map. And it's like, all right, yeah, of course, everybody needs a map to treasure. And it's like, yeah, but it's treasure that we would bring, I don't know, it's treasure that like can directly be sold through this person because they know a fence or something. Or that's the kind of goods they sell. It's like, ooh, this NPC is now way more likely to help them find the stuff they need to get that treasure, because it's going to directly benefit them making money. Or they're trying to run for mayor, and if they can get this thing, if the players can get this thing, it can help them out. Anything like that can help motivate them. What I do is, in Lexicon, motivations is one of the 3 pillars of what a character is built on. It's motivations, which is what motivates them, traits, which are the things they can't really separate from themselves, and skills, which are things they learn. And I also always have a minimum of 2 motivations. And when I also have for players that they have to have a minimum of 2 motivations. And that helps a ton. I like to have like 3 or 4 major, ranging between major and minor. And it can be helpful things, very broad stuff like, make money, help family get into a position of power, all that kind of stuff. But also things that are very personal. So I've had NPCs that, have a, motivation that's don't go back to jail, where their actions, they may skirt the edge on like legal and illegal and like what they're allowed to do and what they're willing to do. They're not going to just be like full law-abiding citizens and be scared all the time, but like they do not want to go back to jail, and that is a very important thing to them. So anything from like, that's something they could use for anything from the types of interactions they would have and conversations they would listen to or eavesdrop on and be a part of, to how they would get away from a situation. That motivation would play into it. So having several motivations, I think 2 minimum is good, but ooh man, more is better. Not too many, because if you have like 16 motivations, I mean, we as people have like a bajillion motivations. We have so many. I am motivated to take a sip of this water right now. Would stay hydrated be on my character sheet? No, it wouldn't. I love I was gonna say drinking, but that's a different term. I love staying hydrated. It's great. It makes me feel better. But it doesn't have to be on my character sheet, but that's one of those things that you could have just kind of in the back of your mind. So having like probably 2 to 6, 8 if you really want to play around with some stuff, and if you want to get into some granular details, that could be cool too. So yeah, having motivations, incredibly helpful. It also makes them a lot more relatable to PCs. Like, if you try to talk to someone just in real life and you don't know what they want out of anything, like what they dislike, what all that stuff, like what they want, what drives them, it can be, at least for me, it could be hard to even hold a conversation with them because you feel like you don't understand them. So knowing a character's, an NPC's motivations can help understand them, which can help build a relationship. And it also gives players a way to specifically interact with them. So now when they know that this person wants to run for office, when they get some juicy deets on something, they, you know, another person, now they've gotten their mind where they can take that information, who it would, you know, be useful to. Maybe they'll give it to that person as a favor. Maybe they'll sell it to them for a price. Maybe they'll just give it to them because they want to be friends, and then, you know, they can do a favor for them. Maybe they could do something later for them, or maybe they share some sort of political or religious affiliation and they're trying to help them further their goals. So if they help this NPC with their goals, because they share that affiliation, it'll ultimately help them because it will spread their political beliefs, their religion, their whatever. Deep says, I don't think I've ever really made a particularly memorable NPC. My friend that GM'd for us a bunch was pretty good at it, though. Well, hopefully these are all things that will help you make memorable NPCs. So motivations. And as memes point out, when you're young, buy zero booty. I don't know what that means. I know not this May. Kind of interesting to consider what kind of character would have stay hydrated on their character sheet. Trauma over dying of thirst, maybe? Maybe. Some sort of hydro mage. Hydro sorcerer. Someone who sweats a lot. And maybe uses their sweat in some fashion. Some sort of sweaty superhero. Aquaman. Okay. So motivations, extremely important. Highly recommend. Do it. Wild magic sorcerers who's prone to self-combustion. Hey Larson, how's it going? Subverting tropes. I feel like tropes should be, my personal belief is tropes should be so subverted that you should make everyone in your game feel bad about believing in tropes. That's what I think. Sweaty thief. Thief can squeeze anywhere. That's funny. Sweat elemental. Gross. I love it. I'm not sure what a sweat elemental would be, but I approve. So subverting tropes, like I said, I want to make it so tropes are so, for the most part, unused that I don't want people to rely on them. Ale elemental. But see, subvert a trope does not mean you have to subvert it the same way. Also, if you subvert tropes enough, you know, if you offer enough diversity in what you're doing, you don't have the belief that thing is true. So like, oh gosh, what's like a fan? So like all elves are stuck up as a fantasy trope. So you make an elf who, you know, who's not stuck up. And it's like, ooh, what a special elf. But then you do that several times. Like it becomes a little more common. And also you meet, okay, well, you meet this halfling that's stuck up. And then you meet this other, you meet this halfling that's not stuck up. And then you meet, like, really mixing it up, making it so it's not about, like, a set component, but a collection of things. So, like, subverting tropes, a friend of mine who runs a lot of games pretty much always does like thief gangs being very diverse. So it's not a roving band of orcs or gnolls, but it's usually a group of, several different kinds of people. And it's that they are all from, they all know each other from knife collecting club. And then they started a gang, or they all know each other from this very poor area where they grew up and, became a gang to, as a form of protection, and then have used it to go outward. That it's not about their specific, reoccurring theme, but that, a bit of circumstance. Subvert the trope can just be, don't make all your elves and dwarves hate each other. Yeah, so elves and dwarves hating each other. Guy did that trope. You can have an or elf and a dwarf that hate each other because the elf fired the dwarf from his job instead because of racism. Yeah. Nick knows. If you like trope subversions, boy, do I have a fantasy series for you. Oh, do tell, Deeps. They know each other from spin class. Yeah, exactly. They all know each other from spin class. So, like, having it so... Even what you just mentioned, Nick, again, about, like, okay, a dwarf and an elf hate each other. Like, because the elf fired the dwarf from their job. Okay. Like, that is a reason that you can expand upon, and it is something personal. It is not just because since the dawn of time we have rivaled since the elves didn't come to our aid in the Battle of Bazagard, so we were like, screw them for 1,000 years. Like, get over it. Malzahn Book of the Pond, greatest thing I've ever read. Man, you just can't not tell me about that book series that I still want to read. The author does not like tropes. Ooh, that's very helpful. Everyone meets people at spin class. It's true. That's like part of the reason of spin class, is to meet people. Also, hey Megami, how are you? I mean, I ran an Underdark campaign, so most of the races were subverted from the start. So yeah, subvert tropes. Don't rely on those. Very important. Megami, I accept this bug meat. And I hope you too will accept this bug meat. Get your evil elves and pragmatic orcs here. A thing for a specific, for a specific way, and how you want to do this is up to you, is mixing a bit of familiar and foreign. So having, a familiar, have a NPC share a regional accent with a PC, and that the PC instantly knows, oh, you're from freaking West Philly or wherever. I'm from West Philly. Something that's familiar to them. And then throw in something that's foreign. Something that can pique their interest, or something that's different. So that they are a religion they haven't heard of, or born and raised. Yeah, born and raised. They use slang that they're not familiar with. Something that is just a bit off from what they would expect given their familiarity with them. You could couple this with subverting tropes. If especially if you are with a group, this is all very, very group dependent. But like, if you have people that, and I've played with people like this that are just like diehard expecting all of the tropes, like where they don't see fantasy as like a magical world where anything can happen, but fantasy as a orcs are evil, good versus bad is everything, black and white morals, and elves and dwarves hate each other, and like anything outside of that is like, what? Like, they sometimes have trouble accepting it as fact, where it's like, what do you mean you don't hate this person for this reason? But I thought everybody did this. Every elf hates every dwarf. What do you mean? So your level of this may change depending on your group and like what they are willing to accept. Hail, friend. Welcome to Western Philadelphia. But yeah, having played a half orc wizard in my D&D campaign. Yeah, like some people will have their minds blown because they don't expect a orc to have the intelligence to be able to be a wizard, which is, racist. But we all gotta learn. Help them out. Hey, Lord X33. Hi. How are you doing? You here for the RPG talks? Or are you here for the Dead by Daylight pro tips? Okay, that's giving me 2 notifications again. That's good. Only one's audio. Hang on. I think that means that there are 2. I think I know exactly why it's doing that. Hang on. Nope. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Oh, Lord Zine. Hey, Lord Zine. Thank you for telling me how to pronounce. I think it's fine for saying of racial stereotypes, but characters should not. Almost everything in PCs should be an exception. Just show they are indeed stereotypes, sort of. I would... That is its own, like, full 2-hour topic with a special guest that I would like to have. But I disagree on having racial stereotypes. I mean, like, will they exist? Yes. But they should exist. If you're going to have them, I feel like they should exist as they do in the real world, which is an oversimplification of incorrect data. Let's see. Oh, he's your buddy? Cool. Well, hey, Nick's buddy. Welcome. She was not a fan of the very tropey half-orc barbarian in the party. He had the minimum intelligence possible for a humanoid. Fun. Deep says, I don't really consider race-based tropes when I make my NPCs. I just kind of make characters and then randomly decide their heritage afterwards. I appreciate not making race-based tropes. I think that's a good one. Whether you're choosing their heritage at random or not, I think it's a good idea not to base it on that. The overwhelming majority of the time. I also think it's a really fun idea to make an NPC and then roll for things like gender, heritage, all that kind of stuff. Because you can have someone who grew up poor or grew up rich or grew up in this area, unless you have like isolated places. But if your world is a melting pot or whatever, then you can have all those things be secondary, and then after you learn them, you could change and mold a few things around it. Jackals is kind of what I meant. YouTube character limits kind of limit my ability to nuance. Oh, ain't that the truth? I had a Minotaur Ranger serve as a guide through the treacherous mountains for the party at the City Slickers with 0 wilderness. Oh my gosh, I love it. That is an excellent segue to the next point. Hang on. Is that the NPC has something the players need or want. Lord Zine, that's an excellent example. You have a group of City Slicker PCs, and now they need someone to help them through the wilderness because they know they can't make it on their own. So this NPC has something they need. They need a guide. That's what they need, guidance. And so that can give them a level of understanding. You can also have it so they have, a particular item they want to buy, or family heirloom they want to trade, or information they have. So they're, drawn to them for a possibly selfish or just personal reason, but that's the gateway. Like, it's not wrong. Hot take, it's not wrong to want to talk to someone for a not wholly, I don't know, not good reason, but unselfish reason. I talk to some people because I want more friends. That's pretty selfish. I want more friends, so I am going to talk with this person in hopes that happens. That's pretty self-motivated. But is that wholly bad? No. So if they have something that they want, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And that's what's drawing them to them. And then that's okay. So you have this wilderness NPC, someone that's can be a guide. That's what the players need. And now you can start adding things to it to make the character more complex and more human. So what are their motivations? Why are they a guide? Why are they okay with taking these particular people? If they think these PCs are too unruly or dangerous, or aren't prepared enough to go through the wilderness, will they say no? Will they not say no? Will they take them through anyway? What do they think about these PCs? Like I said, what are their motivations? How can they're not static? How can the PCs affect them? What's familiar about this Minotaur? What's foreign about this Minotaur? Easily, a lot of outdoor facts would be very foreign to probably all these City Slicker PCs. But yeah, so having something the players want or need is a good example of that. All right, let me catch up on chat. not a good example of that. Having something that players want and need is a good segue, or like a good gateway to getting them to learning more about this NPC. And because they're like, oh, you have this thing I want, they're more inclined to ask more questions. And then in that, they might learn something they like. I like, the little Lionhead Rabbit says, I like systems without personalities and on certain stats like orcs and int. Little Lionhead, I don't know if you've ever heard of this little system I made called Lexicon, but that's pretty much what it's built on, is that none of that applies. You build characters based on the character and not predetermined stats like that. Though something like one-page lore that I wrote, also to your point, I wrote one-page lore fantasy folk, and that is strictly about what makes fantasy folk what they are on like a biological level, not a psychological level. So like, what makes an orc, what makes a naga, what makes an elf, halfling, the tree person, all that. But all of it is on the biological side, and none of it is limited to, you know, social, emotional, or, you know, psychological boundaries. And that all that stuff comes up more based on the environment they were raised in and the beliefs that they hold. Because yeah, I agree. Whatever game I play, well, I built that into the games that I run, and make and stuff in Lexicon or whatever. That's every game I run. Is I try to make it clear to players that like that's not a limitation of this world, whatever world I'm running. Larch says, I don't think there's anything wrong with certain having bonuses or penalties. Principles adds flavor. Doesn't work well at D&D though, since I have nearly the amount of granular as something like NPC, or something is 3.5. Plus 2 int isn't going to make or break a wizard in 3.5, but it makes a mountain of difference in 5e. I don't think that should work. I feel like, again, on a biological level it works, but I think things like intelligence and non-physical stuff, I think, should be left up to the character, and that shouldn't have that kind of stuff. That's how I run it, because it ultimately it becomes a bit of a it becomes a real sticky situation of like, you can't RPGs don't exist in a vacuum, and like saying this group of people who are often very much coded as a particular group of actual people in our world have less intelligence or less charisma, or are naturally and genetically imposing and intimidating and get a bonus to it, exists because it has real world parallels with stereotyping and unfortunate xenophobia and bigotry in our real world, and there are unfortunate clear connections between them. So if it existed in a vacuum, I'd be like, yeah, you know, I guess if that's how you want to run it. But because it exists in our world and we're the ones who make it, like, not that it exists in our world, it's a fantasy world, but like us playing it exists in our world between everyone at the table and everyone outside of the table, that it does have actual roots in unfortunate things. And that's one of the reasons that it makes it more uncomfortable, and I'm generally just more flat against it, if that makes sense. I gotta stay hydrated. It's my motivation. Real life example. Nick Caladra was streaming the other day. A random was pissed off he had adds up. Nick's motivation for streaming isn't a non-selfish reason. That doesn't make it unreasonable. If a group needs to eat, asking for a small reward for saving someone's son from orcs not unreasonable if they're broke. Yeah, it's a excellent example of that, Nick. Both in game and in real world. Why would someone be mad that Nick had an ad? So confused. Why would someone get mad? Okay. People are weird. Jackal says one more bad pun. Yes, I love bad puns. And then I've got to run. There are 60-second tours. There's 60-second tours in a Minotaur. Oh, thank you, Jackal. That's funny. Crawdad says, I heard that Lexicon is a dang good system. Crawdad has played Lexicon. Let's see. Lord Scene says, like, trying to justify... Oh, hang on. J.R. Tolkien struggled with making orcs unequivocally evil, like trying to justify Lord Rise. Yeah. Because people are dumb jerks. That's true, Lord Scene. I guess that's why they complain. 4 30-second ads back to back. Oh wow, that's a lot of ads. Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay, we're not gonna. Well, I guess that can play into memorable NPCs though, because yeah, unequivocally evil. Like if you're talking about, which is weird because one of the things that like Lord of the Rings does is, from my understanding, is that orcs are basically designed versus born. But in other fantasy stuff, they treat them the same way they're treated in Tolkien, as like that sort of evil, but they're born and they can be like, you know, they're as much a humanoid as an elf or a human, because you can, you know, you have all the player can play them, you have all the same stats, they can, you know, produce offspring, but they're somehow still evil by birth, and like that gets weird. So yeah, oh, take care, Crawdad. Thanks for popping in. I hope you have a good day at work. Like, they're trying to take one aspect of that from Lord of the Rings without taking the whole. And while I'm not sure it like works completely in Lord of the Rings either, but they are trying to make it like have cake and eat it too, and that especially does not work, because you just get all sorts of moral dilemmas and problems when you're doing that. If you wanted to have unequivocally evil characters, NPCs, you can. I mean, if you have evil robot programmed to be evil, like, can you make arguments for, well, is that really evil? Like, there's things that you can do with that, or you could have like demons or stuff. But like once you start introducing the ability to like have players be it and show that there's an ability to change, oh man, it gets so sticky. It's okay. I can't keep going down this rabbit hole and stick on topic, so I am just gonna stop there. But arguably, yes, you could make an evil group. Oh man, but then you have to lay down some real fine boundaries. Lars says, I get your argument, but I don't really agree with it, you know, unless it's crossed into the realm of actual horrible stereotypes like certain games. I've seen that shall remain unnamed. Oh man. I think the line starts before it's an actual stereotype, because there are some clear ones, absolutely, that like are so far into being based on real world stereotypes, that you're like, who didn't realize that's what this was? But it's also easy to dismiss it when you're not the one. And I don't know your personal life or anything, Larson, so I don't want to assume anything about you. But I know for me and a lot of people I know, it is very easy to dismiss it when you are not a constant, when you are not constantly being held to those standards. So like, if something is coded as being based on something Native American, I am very possibly not going to notice it or be like, oh, I don't like this. If I do notice it, because I am not intimately aware of how that affects people in the real world, because that is how people view it. And art reflects life. So it's easy. I try to err on the side of like a little more like, I don't want to get into that, because it's outside of my understanding. And like, I know that I am partially unaware of things like that. And from what I know about other things, I know that once I learn it, I'm like, oh, this thing that I didn't know was so pervasive and was so active and was so harmful was so prevalent in so many ways. And now that I know it and I see it in a lot of places that I thought were fine, or that I thought didn't exist, or I thought were just like playful in some fashion, it's like, oh, this is actually a problem. And now I understand that. And now I feel a little bad. So I feel like that line comes before, or that line is kind of, it's not a solid line, it's fluid. And depending on what you're looking at and where you come from and what your understanding is, then that will determine where the line is. And that's why it's further for some people and closer for others. And I think it's important to understand where the line is for other people as well. Let me see. Hey, what's up, Doc? I haven't seen you in a minute. Welcome back. NPCs are meant to be main characters of their own story and don't want to go on adventures or for whatever reason. Was always my starter. They want the problem solved, but they also don't care. Can't run into the dragon's lair. That's what heroes are for. They call the exterminator when they need the raccoon taken care of. They call the heroes when they need the dragon's lair taken care of. I got you, Doc. I think that would fall squarely into motivations too. Like, if you're thinking about them as, you know, they're not an adventurer, well, what are they? And why does that matter to them? And a little bit of the familiar and foreign, what part of why they're not an adventurer can the PCs relate to? So, you know, if a PC is doing something, you know, to better their homestead, to grow closer to their deity, to spread the good word of Cthulhu, I don't know, whatever it is, and that this person could also have that in their life. Foreign, they're not an adventurer and they don't want to be. But yeah, like, I feel like that's a really good way to look at, like, exactly what you said there, Doc, and then apply several different things on why they're doing what they're doing. Blight says, I definitely feel like natural dialogue helps an NPC feel like a real person and adds to the memorability. If you are making them sound like an elf or like an orc flat out, your player will picture their reference and not the character in front of them. That's a great point, Blight. God, we're in a bioessentialism argument now. Doc, we got off topic, but we're getting back on. But yeah, Blight, if you just lay it on too thick one way, yeah, players are gonna expect everything to be one thing. That's a thing that I've really enjoyed about playing Adventurers Nigh, is the way Jack voices NPCs. It doesn't matter who the NPC is, what position of power they're in, what their occupation is, what their genetic makeup is, what their gender is. It doesn't matter. There will be a wild voice Jack is doing for that character, and whether it's anywhere close to what I expected or not, I think that voice and that like specificness of that character that he's bringing about really helps me start to relate to the character, start to like want to know more about them, and that's really fun. And that it, because it's never associated with like, all of the royalty speaks like this, and oh, your bartenders are like this. That it lets me help imagine along with him who this person is. And we are going to bring up voices. I might do that real soon after I catch up on. I have a bunch of other notes before that, but like, how long are we into this? Oh shoot, we're already an hour and 20 minutes in. Oh man, I have more notes. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. I definitely agree with regarding mental and social ability adjustments. I do think it should be okay to have physical adjustments. Setting playable elephants, it would be really weird if they weren't mechanically distinct from humans. Narf, that's actually one of the things that I wrote about in one-page lore fantasy folk, where like orcs, their muscle mass grows faster than other humanoids, and also deteriorates slower. So like if you don't work out for a while, you'll lose your muscle mass. Orcs biologically can gain it faster and lose it slower, which can lead to problems in like, if they work too hard, can start becoming problematic in mobility, because they are now so full of muscle that they are now more cumbersome and things like that, where it's like, yeah, okay. Or like an elephant person, where you have something very much based on being a thick creature, well, a thick humanoid based on a thick creature. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Or like they have a prehensile trunk. Like, yes, they have a prehensile trunk, gnomes do not. That is okay. There might be a reason why one particular elephant person doesn't have a prehensile trunk, but for the majority they do. Kind of like, it's understandable that a human doesn't have 10 fingers, but there's a good chance they will, but not all of us do. All right, get down, see if I can catch up on chat. After that rant, lines always easy to cross, especially when you get just one personality with limited perspective. We as individuals lack the ability to be constantly and actively aware of every way in which our ideas are reflecting harm, and it's incredibly easy to ignore and not understand when you come from outside that group and are not affected by it. Doc, that is a very well summarized version of a thing I took about 20 minutes to say. Well put. Lord Zine says, have a fun NPC who met the party and became obsessed with a PC and sent increasingly creepy letters and turned out to be the big bad serial killer they were hunting. Oh my gosh, that's a good way to get them to hate you. Yeah. Be a creepy serial killer stalker who gets increasingly creepier. Ooh, that's terrifying and kind of fun. But NPCs that are adventurers are certainly a valid thing to do. Yep. I'm assuming that's talking about the earlier comment about the NPCs aren't adventurers. Yeah, because there are some NPCs that are adventurers as well. I don't think it was a full they'll never be adventurers, but yeah, they can be. And if they are, why did they choose that? That is a dangerous profession, and this NPC has made a very clear choice to, you know, spelunk caves or whatever, or be a mercenary. In search of what or why? Let's see. I also think that I don't do that as kind of essential, because where you build in the need between PCs and NPCs, like great example is the villagers in Seven Samurai. They want the problem gone, but lack the skills to do it, but they have skills that are valuable. Yes. We're just going to add that as another point. NPCs don't live in a vacuum. Like, they have a life, they have goals, they have motivations, they have skills that are valuable. What is it that this NPC does? They don't necessarily have to be the best at it. They could be. But they just might, you know, be an okay bookkeeper. But they are still probably a better bookkeeper than most of the party. But that they have valuable skills. What do they do with their free time? What are the skills that they have? And how do they use them? Knowing that, also, if you share that information by hopefully showing, not telling, but possibly telling the PCs, then they could have that, again, that like click moment of like, ooh, well, if you're good at bookkeeping, I need some bookkeeping done. Or like, if you're good at this, then what about this kind of related thing that I need help with? And give them something that the players can directly involve themselves with. What if all the bartenders are Nurse Joy? That's, I mean, you could also do that as a thing, as like I'm very curious why they would be, but I do think that's a funny idea that you could play with, is all X things are this person or people, where they're, you know, all your bartenders are Nurse Joy. I would want to know why. But I think that's could be very funny, and also could just be oddly, you could play that into lore and being kind of creepy, or like some sort of dystopian nightmare. Picturing an orc so jacked he can't wipe his butt. LOL. It's also a good space for world building, figuring out why the PCs can't, or why NPCs can't. Like in my home game, there's a powerful NPC ally floating around during this plague they are trying to stop. But the question is, the question can be, why doesn't she just solve this? And the answer is, she's fielding the geopolitical argument that's happening around the PC's actions. World building, and the webway it makes is the net to catch questions. Ah, yeah, that's cool. That's really neat. All right, we're going to add this. So exactly on that, the role in the NPCs, no, can I, there we go. In the NPCs, what is the NPC's role in the world? Kind of what Doc was just saying, where she's fueling like the geopolitical argument around the PC's actions. Like, that's involved in their actions and in the world itself. Having them be connected in different ways can help, again, kind of flesh out them as a character, which can help you play them more. And I think that's a good thing to do kind of after you have the character's idea, or if you start here and go, I want them to be doing this, but then think about all these other things on why they're doing this, what their motivations are, what are their tropes that they're subverting. You know, they're not static. Why are they the way they are? What did they used to be, and what will they grow into? Oh man, I still gotta catch up on chat. I did hear Wim say his family seems to have extra fingers and toes. Well, my issue is okay, being physical differences but not mental ones is that now you've got a system where certain races are better or worse at being a fighter or rogue, but everyone is equal and good at being a caster, which kind of feels off. Larson, that is true if you are playing D&D, and I feel like that's why you have mental and social penalties in D&D. However, that is not the case in other systems. Plug lexicon. You can have an orc who, while they are, you know, able to build muscle more quickly and keep it longer, that does not mean that if a human or an elf or a elephant person who puts as many qualities into their melee attack or whatever it is, you know, their combat abilities, that they will be more powerful. That's one of the things that I don't like about things in the field of like Pathfinder and D&D, is also because of that, where it's like a halfling, because of stats, will always be both weaker and deal less damage than one thing higher than it in a size category. And I hate that, because it does not matter if a person is 4 feet tall or 7 feet tall. If they stab me in the neck with a dagger, it's gonna hurt the same. And that's not how those systems are built. And that's dumb. And that's another reason why I think like the physical and mental stats should be something that is not addressed the way that systems like that address it. Because there's a gnat flying around. Because, yeah, it does not matter. If I get stabbed in the neck, I get stabbed in the neck. It really doesn't matter if it's from this high up or this low. It's ouch. It's severe ouch. So I think your point is valid within D&D and within Pathfinder, but I'm gonna say, cough cough better, but in other systems, that is not a factor, because that's not how the rules determine what a good fighter or a good rogue is, or a good wizard. But within the context of those, I understand why they did it for the kind of the reasons you're saying, but I also feel like that was the wrong solution for the problem that they created. Were you playing Rise of the Rude Lords AP? I think there's one of those in there. Oh, okay, yes, that's for Zine. Also, as far as memorable, for my money, a grand exit always works better than a grand entrance. Oh, I love that. I'm gonna add that. Grand and or specific exit. We're gonna put that. That's great. An NPC who always leaves by throwing a smoke bomb and vanishing. Yeah. Actually, I see your point, Blight, and I agree. My brain just went, still better bookkeeper than Twilight, LOL. Oh, hey, Rappeach. They're in high school and probably haven't learned about bookkeeping. Let me see real fast. We're into this. Doc brings up, it also doesn't have to be an ethnic stereotype problem, as our stereotypes built around various groups centered in physical traits such as strength, and the answer really to all of it is learning about diverse people, walking with caution with the ideas that are not immediately attached to outside of the culture, asking for help from experts, and being willing to eat crow and edit when it's wrong. Learning to take that criticism is essential too. Learning to take criticism. Very important. All that said, I really do need to think of a few ways to diversify my orcs. Party is visiting an deep orc city next weekend. I worry my vocal cords are going to give out under the weight of the macho gruffness. You know, Larson, think, you know, machismo. We have such a limited view of machismo. Like, expand what machismo is. I'm going to say, like, not all orcs have to be fully machismo, but if you want to have like a macho or gruffness or machismo bit to it, not everybody has to talk like Macho Man Randy Savage. You're making the culture. You're making the city. Make macho a broader term. Make it a more accepting term of things other than I'm gonna blah 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 blah, as that's the only way to talk. What else do they incorporate as macho? It doesn't matter if it's macho according to the PCs. It's not their freaking land. It's not their culture. If everybody I don't know why I just thought about you taking a hit of helium before each person in this place talks, just to really throw them off, but that made me laugh. Also, that is too much helium. Don't be doing that. But yeah, expand what macho means, both vocally and socially. Because, like, that's a thing that gets me with, like, macho cultures. Klingons do it to an extent, but I feel like not as much as, like, something like Krogans in Mass Effect, where it's, like, they're so obsessed with, like, battle and honor and stuff like that, it doesn't make sense that they have come as far as they have. If they really only care about hand-to-hand combat, it doesn't make sense that they have someone who designed a car, because there's no honor in that. Based on what their society deems as being good and that like they want to do, why does anyone become a doctor? Why does anyone become, you know, a scientist? How did they make, you know, a rocket ship? Which Krogans, I know, they, like, didn't because of Solarian, but whatever. So Klingons make rocket ships. Like, why did they do that if all they care about is stabbing each other? And the answer should be because they don't only care about stabbing each other. And that you could do more than just stab. And that you can have a level of, like, machismo and whatever, but that you can expand upon what that is. And that it is also not the only thing. Hey, I found my hard drive. Good job, little Lionhead. I believed in you. You need to do a second to read through chat. You need a second to read. Yeah, I know. I do. We're still mostly on topic. Okay, I am. Oh my gosh, this is so long. All right, yeah, I'm just scrolling through. I'm not going to read all this. I'm sorry. Because I still have to get to the NPC voices, and we only have about 20 minutes left. All right, going through smoke bomb entrances and exits. All right, let me get right back here. Also, learning what makes a species biologically distinct can give you a lot, can get you a lot of legs. Like dwarves have a whole art movement based on dark vision, monochrome, and shades, and transition work. So they have different relationship with colors and shadow. And what they mean to them. Color theory can be your big friend once you realize fashion sex off. Yeah, that's a really good point, Doc. Fully agree with that. Like understanding a biological thing. Also, are they isolated societies or are they melting pots? So like, if you have a place that is, you know, an original dwarven city versus a place that is a lot of different people, where the original dwarven city will have some things maybe left over from that age before, you know, there was more integration and like dealing with other people. I tend to run games where like isolationism is the world has been around long enough that there's so much mixing of culture and everything. And like that it's not, there's generally not like the, you know, the dwarven city where it's like, yeah, there is like the original lands, but like even that can get a little like, it's not just dwarves there. You can't do more than just stab. Motivational poster quote, if I ever heard one. Klingons were engineered, though. Were they? Oh. Macho equals many nachos. Every time Jesse says, I need to catch up on chat, 6 more messages appear. Yeah, it's true. I like that in Mass Effect 2 they kept making me feel like a racist for going, oh, a Krogan secretary. Yeah, why not? A Krogan poet? Yes. Heck yeah. Sort of engineering, I guess. They existed, but Solarians boost. Oh yeah, Krogans. But even then, like, they have Krogan armor made by Krogans. They have like a Krogan political system. They have rocket ships that they don't just steal now. Like, I can understand where like originally the Solarians uplifted them, which I'm curious if you use that term because you know the Uplift series. But like, they have, in order for them to be in the place where they are, they had to have moved on beyond we like stabbing each other. Thank you for the hydrate scene. I appreciate it. All right. Let me bring this up. We're talking about voices. I gotta bring up my references. I wrote a thing a while ago. I'll probably link it. Computer, that is not what I wanted you to do. So we're gonna fix that. There we go. Okay, so shoot, it was I forgot to write down who asked this specifically. Was it Reef? Narf? I think it was Narf. Hey, it's Billy. Oh my gosh, excuse me. It's Billy Will. Boy, how are you doing? Though to weigh in on the counterpoint, a lot of human tech progression has been born out of creating a better weaponry to murder each other. It is true, but humans do not only worship the murder. Like, they understand that they must learn to murder better, and thus progression is made. Very unfortunate that is what motivates us as a species, is how to kill each other more effectively. But you know, I guess that's literally the world we live in, and we just try to make it better by not killing each other. Okay, so we're talking about voices. In all of this, I think this is something that you can use to both influence these factors, and also as something to use as an aside. So, voices. Oh man, now we're talking about Krogans. I only got 15 minutes left, so I can't get sidetracked on Krogans. These are things that I try to do, and I will be honest, I definitely struggle with. It is like, because some of it has to do with your shoot, what's the word? Like, your comfort level of improv. So like, I want to have an NPC that talks fast, but I am limited to how fast I can talk and how fast I can improv the conversation that we're having. Because if someone, you know, asks me something, I can only react to it within my abilities, my fairly limited vocal range, my fairly limited talking speed, my extremely limited stable of bad impressions. But there are specific things that, even if you're a scrub like me, can help. So one of them, this is a difficult one. Let's zoom in a little more. We're gonna make this bigger too, because now we're talking about voices. This is a difficult one, because you want, again, if you want someone to have a big vocabulary, but your vocabulary isn't as big as theirs, you're still limited by your vocabulary. But extremely effective thing is word choices. What words do they use? And this can be everything. And I know a real simple one is like, they use big words, as I just mentioned. So like, they pontificate rather than they think. And that's important. And, you know, that's an important word choice, and it can work well, and you can kind of play into it and even go for, or, you know, against tropes, kind of what we talked about up here. That you can have someone that uses big words but isn't haughty. I really enjoy the character, I don't know what a subversive trope that becomes a trope, that sort of thing. So like the the like country bumpkin that uses big words correctly. I know I love that as a thing. I think it's delightful. So if you have like, if you want to throw in like your deep Midwest accent or Southern American accent or something like that, and then they use the word pontificate, and things like that. So so the types of words they use also, outside of just big words or small words, or words like they don't use the classic, they don't say I, they use their names, or like, me hungry or Jesse hungry, but also slang terms. So like if you have the what's it called, the double preposition or whatever, so you have like the cat is under the bed is a term, but then there's the cat is up under the bed, which, if you don't know what that means, just sounds like it might be wrong, or like, why are you throwing in extra words? But like, that's slang. That means the cat is like, a cat that's under the bed is under the bed. Is it directly under the bed? Is it in the middle of the bed? Is it, like how far? Who knows? But when the cat is up under the bed, oh, that cat is up under the bed. That means that cat is under the bed and you cannot get it out. You cannot reach that cat. It is up under the bed. So like terms like that can help set up like how they are, and like where they're from, what kind of language they use, like their actual word choice. There's a lot of different ways you can use it other than just big words or small words. When they are speaking someone that they like, they're speaking to someone that they like, do they use different words than when they're speaking to someone that they don't like? That's another way to use words. So, how does their vocabulary or their language change based on how they perceive the person they're talking to? Do they maybe use the name of the person when they like them, or, use a nickname if they like them, but then use their proper name if they don't like them? Do they have something that they open or close a sentence with regularly? Like start each question, when they're going to ask a question, they always start with and then lead into it. Again, do they give people nicknames? If they do, why? What do they base them on? Do they use a person's first name or last name? Why does that change if they do use one or the other? Like, if they, out of respect, out of kinship. I mentioned slang. What kind of slang do they use? And do they use, or, a thing you can also do is kind of, do they use filler words? Like words that just, fill the space. And that's another one that's hard, because I say like all the hot dogging time, and it bothers me every time I notice it. But I wish I didn't do that. And I often I want to have an NPC that doesn't use filler words, such as that. But, oh my gosh, I have a thing. But if I'm not noticing that I'm saying it, I can often kind of accidentally filter those words back in to an NPC's dialogue. So those are all ways that you can use words. Oh man, I have 6 more of these, so we gotta get through this. We might be a little over today. And also I have to stop to say Little Lionheart freaking subscribed. It's your first month here. Thank you, Little Lionheart. I greatly appreciate it. There it is again. Yeah, it's not even a new thing. It's just, all right. How do I gave me that twice? Thank you. I appreciate it. Add to your get a house and cat get a house and get a cat fund. Thank you very much. It go there. Oh man, I gotta, okay, let me catch up on chat. But I'm not gonna read all of chat. Hootie toity. Oh, I like hootie. I know it's supposed to be hoity toity, but I like hootie toity. That's real hootie toity. Want to do a street urchin, but couldn't stop using uni level vocab. That's funny. Super fat NPC that's super agile. Oh, like Sammo Hung. That dude can move. It's really hard to roleplay a character that's smarter than you. Yeah, it is hard. I think that's one of the reasons I like roleplaying, because I can... part of it is like... I don't need to be more... I want to play someone who's more charismatic than me, but I am limited by my own charisma. But that's where, like, the stats and numbers come in, where I can give an okay performance, but, like, that was in-game better than what I did. Or, you know, I want to build a thing, and, like, I don't know how to build a thing, but my character knows how, so they are in-game better at it than I am and can pull it off. That's part of the make-believe. But it can be really hard. Oh, Lord Zine is really good at NPC voices. I tend to be good at specific character voices. But Zine is good at making sure any NPC with any real dialogue has a good standy-outy voice. Nice. Zine, you're also welcome to share your tips in chat, because you've just been called out as being good at it. Whether you're a PC or an NPC, I feel like you're doing character's voice can make easier roleplay. Rat Beach, 100% agree. I always say that to new and returning players. I always strongly suggest doing a voice. And these other things I'm going to bring up, but definitely a voice. Jesse, can you monitor all of your chats like YouTube and Twitch from OBS since you're using Restream? Yes, I can, Honey Money. That's actually what I'm looking at right now. And it shows me who's posting and what. So it's helpful, because I have a little icon before everybody's name that's either a Twitch icon, a YouTube icon, or a Trovo icon. The once in a month and a half to 3 months if that ever shows up. All right, so voices, word choice, very important. All right, let's keep moving. We got a lot more to do. Next one, tone. What's their tone? This can be all of these things that I'm going to mention kind of play into each other. But you can also tackle them individually. So, like, what's their tone? Is it generally lighthearted? Are they distressed? Do they have undertones that reflect what they're talking about, like worry or hope? Are they trying to please the person they're talking to? Are they trying to antagonize the person they're talking to? Are they just trying to get the heck out of this conversation? Like, what is it that they're trying to do? Do they sound stressed or relaxed? You know, it's if you watch Rick and Morty, like, you hear Justin Roiland's voice a lot in that show. And a lot of the people will sound similar, where you could easily be like, yeah, that's Justin Roiland almost doing a Morty voice for this alien. But it's one of the things that sets Morty's voice apart is Morty's tone, where it's like it has a level of worry to it. Oh, Narf. Okay, real quick before you go, Narf, I will put this in chat. This is a thing about NPC voices that I wrote up a while ago, and that these are to get a quick peek at in addition to all the stuff I'm talking about, which I'm currently talking about that specifically because you brought it up. So you can check that out too. And when you check out the VOD, that's what I'm talking about right now. Anyone else can look at that link too. Also, bye. Thanks for coming in. Good seeing you. I hope to see you next week as well, if not before. Okay, so how do they sound? Are they stressed, relaxed, excited, upset, indifferent? Like, what is their tone? All of that can come into it. Another one is speed. My speed is currently increasing because I'm running out of time. So, like, how fast or slow they speak. And as I mentioned, that was a really hard thing. Oh, geez, talking about Morty again. Ah, oh, jeez. Yeah, exactly. That was another thing in word choice. Like, Morty saying, oh, geez. Like, that's one of those filler words that's specific to Morty. And that plays with his character. So speed, how fast or slow they talk. Also, if they do talk fast or slow, go up here to motivations. And like, it doesn't have to be a set motivation, but like, where are they from? Where are they from? And how does that matter or not matter? We all are built on a mix of accepting and rejecting parts of the societies that we grew up in and that we are currently a part of and that we are learning about. So we all see something and we accept some things and we reject some things. Like, why? Why is this character accepting of this thing and rejecting of this other thing? None of us are wholesale accepting of whatever. The most stereotypical person you could possibly meet, if you actually talk to them, will be made up of things that you didn't expect, because we are all made of a mix of accepting and rejecting. Oh my gosh, yeah. Good example of Morty and tone is the Citadel episode with Morty, with Cop Morty. He doesn't talk like a normal Morty, but when he's talking to a Morty, he says "aw geez" several times without actually worrying his tone. God, that is such a good episode. Yeah, it's a really good point, Nick. That show, I do like it. I think it's a good show. And it's a really good because it has some of the like a limited voice cast in a lot of ways. It's a really good way of kind of understanding how a single person does different voices. All right, so speed. So how fast they speak, how slow they speak, why, what makes them speed up or slow down? Is it excitement, fear, worry? Like, do they speed up when they get nervous? Do they slow down when they get nervous? What changes their speed? That's all important things to think about and play that into them. Oh my gosh. NPC role in the world. Oh gosh. Did I... Oh yeah, their Dark Souls role in the world. Well, that's in the VOD. That's 2 hours of me spelling that word wrong. Cool. Thanks, Nick. So what does their speed represent when they speed up or slow down? Do they think about their words before they say them? Are they rapid firing so fast they have no filter? Or is their mind moving quicker than their mouth can produce? Another thing you can kind of play with is and mix these with like speed and word choice. Do they start a sentence normal speed? This could be a unique thing for an NPC to do that would make them stand out. Do they start a sentence normally and then start speeding up, and then as they continue get a little bit more off topic until they cut themselves off with a new sentence and restart the speed at a slower speed? It's the kind of thing you got to roll with. Thanks, Larson. Yeah, so like, is that a thing they could do? And then, of course, why do they speak quickly? Are they distracted? It's part of the thing. But yeah, so they could talk how to play with speed. If, like I said, they talk normal, talk quickly, and then kind of cut themselves off and start over because they got distracted. You know, how can you do that, and then how can you mix it with other things? Nope, we're up here at roll. We gotta go back down here. Another thing they have is inflection. What words in the sentence do they emphasize and why? So like, what words are they stressing? What words are they breezing over? Is there a specific point to the word that they're stressing? Is there a theme to the word that they're stressing? What's the purpose of them stressing that word? Is it something that they do passively? Like if you have that, oh shoot, I forget where it's from, but it's there's some places where you raise the tone of your last word in a sentence. And so it kind of sounds like you're always asking a question, but that's just your natural inflection. Sam Witwer's voice performance as Maul in the Clone Wars is a good study of tone/speed/reasoning behind those things, especially when he's first introduced, his sanity being showcased. Ooh, interesting. Jesse, I think does your character have ADD, because that's a definite description of how I speak in real life. Big mood right there. Big mood. It's not saying that's definitely how I speak sometimes too. But yeah, so what do they stress? What do they inflect in a name? Do they, when they say a person's name, do they stress it? Got a meeting, got a roll. Catch you later, Jesse. Take care, Doc. Australian accents do that raising word. There's somewhere in America that does that too. I think it's West Coast somewhere. But yeah, I think you're right. Australia might do it too. But yeah, so like, why do they stress a word and what's the purpose of it? Is there a rhythm to the words they stress? Like, is it always kind of like the last word, or like, do they kind of do it? You could do it sort of as a sing song, like when you hit everything on a point, no matter where in the sentence it falls, you have to continue. That's silly, but like that's the thing you could do. So how you want to play with inflection. Specific quirks is one that we brought up a few times. And look, here it is again. So like, what are their specific quirks in how they talk? Do they... I wrote this as an example because I do this sometimes. Do they commonly use sound effects instead of a specific words? So like, oh my gosh, it was like rather than it exploded. Do they laugh reflexively? I have a friend that like almost always laughs at the end of a sentence, and it's a reflex. That's just I don't know why he does that, but he does, and like it's just a thing that he does, and it's like, oh, it's adorable. So it's like, but that's a specific quirk. Are they constantly distracted or hyper focused? I guess who that friend is. Yeah, you know who it is. How do they address the group or individuals? Do they always pause to let people finish or constantly interrupt people? So like, those are all like, what are the specific things that they do with their voice? And then volume, why do they raise their volume? Why do they lower their volume? What's it based on? Is it excitement? Does their normal environment affect their volume? I have learned that I talk too loud a lot of times, and part of that reason, excuse me, is because I am talking to people on the internet in front of a microphone, and I have really solid headphones on that are blocking my voice so much that I feel like I'm whispering because of what I'm hearing. But when I take these bad boys off, it turns out I'm shouting. Because it feels like I'm not shouting until I take these off and I realize I am. So, what is the environmental or personal reason that their volume is high or low? If someone works at a shop that's loud, they are probably going to naturally be yelling a lot because you got to shout over the machinery or whatever. For voice specifically, I think a huge help is simply being self-aware of how you usually speak in real life. If you aren't aware of your own voice quirk, it's hard to intentionally do things a character's voice does. 100% agree with that, Nick. That is totally true. Ah, returns from dinner. Welcome back, Discordia. I'm about to be possessed by the ghost of a musical theater actor. I think Discordia sent a message that didn't show up. Oh, onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia, also a great choice, though. Really solid thing to do. This is quite a lot to consider for NPC voices. I have a method, but I don't want to type a ton. That's fine. We'll talk about it hopefully next week when you're on. If you don't want to type it up. It is a lot to think about, and the thing is you don't have to think about all of these things. Oh, also there was one more thing. Posture. It helps me a lot when I actually personify a character. So like, do they hunch forward? Then I want to hunch forward when I'm talking in their voice. You know, are they are they much bigger than the group? You know, are they like an incredibly tall tree person? Cool. Maybe I'll stand up and like be taller than everybody who's sitting at the table. I like to embody it in some fashion and then try and incorporate that. Also, you can incorporate other things like, do they talk with their hands? I freaking do. If I was doing an impression of myself, I would be flinging my hands everywhere or holding a controller, I guess. But like, incorporate that. Don't just say they talk with their hands. Really embody that. How does this change your posture? How does this change your inflection? How does this change your speed? How does doing this change how you interact with people? Are you more able to, like, okay, I'm thinking about this. Probably this person is more like physical. Maybe they, like if they're talking to someone directly, they slap them on the shoulder and make deep eye contact when they're talking to them. Like, incorporate that into the character. What do they do and why do they do it? I have an example of the Riker maneuver on this little thing as well, because I think that's funny. Who do they look at when they're speaking? All these things. What's the physical space that they are occupying, and how are they interacting with it when they are talking? And I try to incorporate that, and that helps just kind of get me into character. It also helps because it kind of creates a ability for me to remember a voice. Because if I just try to do like, this person talks like this, and then that's all I have, then it's harder for me to 2 weeks later remember how that person sounds. But if I remember, like, okay, well, they do, they hunch forward and their hands are always up here. Like, I'm creating a mental pathway of, like, the voice and the actions that's all going to help me remember this thing. It also helps with things, it's not the posture of your mouth, but the position of your mouth. I've mentioned this before, where when I try to do, it's hard to do, and I mess it up all the doggone time, but my voice that helps me remember for what Grinderbed sounds like is like, I only try to talk out of the right side of my mouth. Or like, there's a NPC that I like to run named Gargles on Bile, and it's like a super gruff, gravelly voice, like a jovial persona with like a horribly gnarly voice. And like, one of the things that I do is that with that character is, Gargles doesn't actually breathe because he's a flesh golem, but he mimics breathing before he became aware. When he started to become aware, he mimicked breathing, but he didn't have lungs, so he would just kind of flap the meat around in his neck to mimic breathing that he heard other people do, but it sounds disgusting. So it's just like a kind of noise. So he's always doing that when he is not actively making words. So like, the mouth shape and everything that I'm doing is that I'm always trying to be able to quickly go back to this kind of noise. And so that affects the tone and like the voice and everything. And like, that's a specific character quirk, but also that's a position. I'm trying to remember, like, that's the noise I want to be making. How do I need my mouth and throat to be to make that noise quickly and not deviate too far from that to, do a voice? And that's kind of where that voice comes from. And of course, Gentleman Jim Raptor. Like, I always got to straighten up when I voice Gentleman Jim. So like, those are all things that are very helpful in making a specific voice for an NPC, and to help get in the character, because I feel like getting into the character is more important than a completely distinct voice. If you can do a completely distinct voice, that's great. I have an extremely limited range of voices I can do, so like, I've already failed. But if I can personify a character and do enough things with it outside of the voice, so the voice is a little bit different than mine, but then the posture's different, and the tone is different, and the word choice is different, then all the players can see that this is the character, even if it's not like as far removed from me as a good professional GM is. It is still far enough removed from me that the players can gravitate towards it and interact with it as a character and not just me, if that makes sense. All right, that's it. I'm going to catch up on these last few chats, and then that's it. Let's see. It's a really good point, Nick. Remembering how, paying attention to how the voice feels in your chest and throat, dealing with volume, which is exactly what I'm trying to do now, is like keep that kind of, this is all low, and not doing what sounds properly, which is also why I feel like we all shout when we're on the phone. Yeah, I have a lot to add that goes with storytelling, so I'm saving it. Okay, cool, good. Because we still got to choose our topic, Blight, so. Jesse gesticulates. Usually try to act out the body language of the NPC. Probably be more effective if I could actually turn on my webcam so my players could see me. Yeah, that's very helpful. Because you're missing the whole visual element when you're doing that. Although it does help. Your voice does change when your posture changes. So even if they can't see it, do it for yourself and do it for the personification. So I'd still, even if they can't see it, I still recommend it. But it is better when they can also see it. It does help. I'm pretty good at impressions of folks. And you 100% have to hold your mouth a specific way for each one. Like when I do my George W. Bush impression, I also try to furrow my eyebrows. Yeah, you got to do that. That's a good point. Like, where's your face? I'd have a half confused smile. I'm not joking. What I mean either. It helps the voice. Yeah, it does. Because you're not just mimicking, like, you're mimicking more than just like their literal voice. Like, there's, if you have a tightness to your face, like, there's going to be a tightness, like, that's going to affect how you talk to some degree. So it makes sense. Very good points about posture and mouth position. Focuses on choir theater a lot. Good tips. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Topic, yeah, we actually had a topic on making memorable NPCs. Discordia, that was our topic. We stuck to it. I'm going to say over half the time. And even the stuff that we did that didn't relate to it directly, or no, that was off topic, still related to it to a degree. I did not get into how to make players hate your NPCs on purpose. So I guess that's just going to be another topic for another time. This was an excellent, for me at least, RPG help desk. I hope this was helpful for everybody else too. I hope it lived up to its name. Oh, posture check. You gotta assume the posture of Jesse to do the voice of Jesse. So thanks everybody for coming. That's today's talk. If I reopen, will that? No, that does not. Okay, hang on. I gotta bring this back up. You're welcome. Thank you, Honey Money. Great stuff as always. Thanks. Thanks, Deeps. Thanks, Owen. Oh, thank you, Nick. Yeah. Thanks. Who else was here? Narf, Larson, Little Rabbit, Discordia, Blight, Crawdad, Nick, Zine, who's new. Thanks. Lord Zine. Tommy and Little Lion Head Rabbit for subbing. consumer of food. Don't know if you ever showed up, but thanks. Lord Refa, thank you. Also, hi. Cool. This was fun. Hopefully next week, I believe, we're going to try and get Blight. And we're going to talk about some stuff. What exactly? Who knows? Soft as Volvit's on. All right, I'm rating Volvit. Volvit does art and is very good at it. So that's where we're rating. I gotta bring it up so I can actually see stuff when it goes up. Cool, there we go. Got it set up. You are welcome. Thank you, Owen. This was a delight, a true and honest delight. I've said this before. I'm just so happy that people keep showing up to this because I really didn't know if this was going to work out as like a people come to talk about RPG stuff and listen about RPG stuff, but it has been continually successful, and that is incredibly helpful. I'm gonna plug myself real fast for anyone who some reason doesn't know. I have an itch page. That's that, and there's RPG stuff on there. One page lore, fantasy folk is on there, which I talked about today. Grinderbins is also on there. Yeah, I'll be there provided you're not doing what you might be doing. Yeah, because I might be out of town, but I don't think it's that week. But I got to make sure of that first, and I have to check that, so I can't really do it on stream because no one wants to just watch me look off camera for like 5 minutes. You're all the best. I'm gonna raid. Take care, everybody.